Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our big show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are releasing this week. They are coming out on Wednesday, and we'll give you a little sneak peek at them and tell you what we thought about them and better prepare you for when you head to your local comic book store or you shop with us at infinityflux.net. You have a better idea of what you're shopping for and what might suit your needs. That's our biggest goal, is connecting the right comic with the right reader for the ultimate experience.
Yeah.
And this is
The absolute ultimate.
the absolute ultimate experience of person plus comic equal heart emoji. This is a really good week of books. It is a little bit on the smaller side, as like kind of number of titles, but we still got some heavy hitters and some ones that we're very excited to talk about and get into. So let's get it started.
Yeah, we are going to start with Absolute Superman number 4. Just another great entry into what is my favorite Absolute book out of the 3 so far. Now, this one is a little bit more focused on Lois Lane as she travels the globe trying to get more information about Superman, or maybe even find Superman. She travels all over to many different countries and actually kind of interviews people. We see a little bit of like the reporter Lois Lane. She's talking to people who have had personal interactions with Superman, but of course she's with the Lazarus Corporation. They don't trust the Lazarus Corporation, so they don't give up any information whatsoever.
Pretty protective of Superman.
Yeah, the only thing they tell her is how he helped them, but they don't say who he is, where he is, any of that kind of stuff. So she kind of runs into a wall there. She does wind up in Pakistan. And this is where I should have mentioned this at the very top. This is the first appearance of this universe's version of Jimmy Olsen and General Sam Lane, and also the Omega Men, who we first heard about in the first couple issues. Mostly like in the background, you would see like graffiti, the Omega Men are coming, or something like that. We actually see a couple of those Omega Men in this issue. Plus, we also see Jimmy and Sam Lane as well. So cool to see more existing characters pop up in this. So during Lois's travels, she winds up in Pakistan, and this is where she meets those Omega Men. And a lot of this issue is her fighting them, because they're obviously, the Omega Men are very against Lazarus Corporation.
Yeah, they're kind of a resistance.
Yeah, like a resistance.
Them.
So a lot of this issue is them fighting, and the Peacemakers show up, and things escalate even more, make things even worse. But then we do get to see some Superman. He shows up as well to kind of quell everything. And he does some really, really cool stuff that I won't tell you about. We do see more maybe of his dust cape.
Yeah.
There's some more cool stuff with that. And yeah, I don't want to tell anything else because I don't want to spoil it. But just another great entry into this series. The mystery deepens. We get a little bit more of... Oh, there's a mystery too of like something is going on with Chris Smith, who is the Peacemaker that we know like from the main universe. He's also one of the Peacemakers in this. And there is something going on with him. We don't know what it is, but he acts a little bit weird at the end. So there's a mystery there. There's more.
There's a mystery character in here
that
is behind a mask that is another thing that you can kind of theory craft of who's behind the mask.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's going to be somebody substantial.
I have a theory. I'm not going to say it here, but I have a theory on who it is based on nothing really, but I just think it's that. But I think there's a little bit more mention of like the Brainiac system from the Lazarus Corporation,
and how it's kind of really messed up.
Yeah.
It may be part of why Peacemaker is so confused about what he's doing.
Yeah, that's right. So another great issue, great art, great action. Like I love seeing Lois in this, and there's mysteries of, like you said, the Omega Men, who are they, that kind of thing. So very, very cool. Highly recommended. If you like the first 3 issues, you're gonna love this. So we've got our A cover right here, and we got some cool variants that I forgot to get. Here we go. This is the David Talaski variant. We have this really nice Raza variant. We have this Kari Andrews variant. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, I started second guessing myself. And this is the 1 in 25 Karen Grant variant that we're selling for $12.99. That is a really cool. Like, what's all going? Oh, it's all the peacemakers. Oh, he's
Peacemakers.
fighting his way through the peacemakers. Yeah, very very cool.
Yeah, it's. I still feel like that. I love all of the absolute books. I feel like that's the one that maybe does the most world building
Right.
and shows you more corners of the like this absolute universe,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, you've got Superman, but you do see, well, there's this organization over here and there's
Yeah.
these characters over here. So I feel like we have the most characters in Superman, as
Right.
opposed to,
Yeah.
Batman is very centralized on Batman and Alfred
Yeah.
and Black Mask and stuff. Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor, some of the flashback stuff. But this is like, you know has probably 15 characters now
Yeah.
that have been named
And
and
there's
stuff.
there's more mysteries too, more things to guess at, and more. I get more. More excited to read each issue of this because I get excited about maybe learning answers to some of
Yeah.
these questions. Whereas with Batman, which I love, but Absolute Batman's like, oh yeah, Batman's gonna fight the party animal gang,
Yeah.
and Wonder Woman's like, yeah, she's gonna go fight the Tetracide. But with Superman, I'm like, oh, are we going to learn more about these seeds they keep planting? So
Yeah.
that's what does it for me.
For sure. Well, next up, I have a book I am very excited about. This is Star Wars: Legacy of Vader. Is it Reign of the Reign of Kylo Ren is kind of
Mm.
its subtitle. This is a new ongoing series from Charles Soule and Luke Ross. And I always, anytime I mention Charles Soule, I have to mention that his Darth Vader run, that was kind of the second volume of Darth
Yeah.
Vader when Marvel got the Star Wars rights back, is one of my favorite comic series of all time, not
Wow.
just Star Wars, but all time. I just feel like, one, the art in that was amazing, but he really kind of crafted a story where you've got Darth Vader and you know his trajectory, you know where he ends up. So you would think, why is this going to be interesting? But Charles Soule found a way of just deepening the lore around Vader, and he's the one who introduced Vader's castle and who built it and all of that. Well, this is very much kind of a not a sequel to, but a spiritual successor to that Vader series. So this is set right after the events of Last Jedi, and that's kind of really important for this because you're kind of getting into the headspace of Kylo Ren. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings of Kylo Ren, but what I think this does really well is kind of flesh out why he acts the way he does. In this, he's killed his father back in during like Force Awakens. He almost killed his mother in his kind of attack on her ship. This is after Luke has died, but Luke kind of made Kylo look like a fool out in front of everybody.
That
Um,
was a great sequence too. I
yeah.
love that part of that movie though. That's awesome.
You have just a lot of things. He had his kind of confrontation with Ray, but then Ray basically like closing the door on their
Mm-hmm.
connection. Uh, and Kylo at this point doesn't understand why he's not basically Darth Vader. He doesn't understand why am I not that powerful? Like, I am doing everything. I'm going by the Sith handbook of destroying my past and doing all that. And so he's really torn up about, like, am I just inadequate for this role? But also, what's previously happened is Supreme Leader Snoke was killed during Last Jedi, where he was a lightsaber pulled in half. And now that seat is vacant for the Supreme Leader. We know once Rise of Skywalker starts that Kylo is Supreme Leader
Mm-hmm.
Kylo Ren, but you actually see the moment in this where that becomes apparent, and you see what he does to basically make himself the undisputed new supreme leader, where no one's gonna question that position.
Yeah.
I showed Matt before. I was like, check out what
Yeah.
this is.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's
It's pretty neat.
It's a pretty ballsy move on
Yeah.
his part. But what most of this is that struggle of like, why am I not Darth Vader? And he even comes to the point where he's like, maybe I need to destroy everything about Vader because that's also part of my past. So he is going to go to Mustafar, to Vader's castle, basically just I don't know if he's planning on tearing it down or what to do, but he's kind of looking for answers there. And that's where maybe he learns he needs to embrace the Vader side of him, and that's where the series is going to go. As we've already heard from some solicitations and the writer talk about it and everything, that Kylo Ren's kind of going to be going on the path of Vader. It said the next issue he's going to Tatooine, so we see Mustafar in that. He's kind of following in the footsteps of Anakin to Vader to better understand how did Vader become what he eventually did, how he became that powerful. And that's what the series is going to be about. But this issue has tons of twists and turns, has some surprises, it has plenty of action as he does meet resistance when he goes to Vader's castle. There's others there protecting it. And it's all super interesting. The art is phenomenal, the layouts, all of that. Now that we have the Darth Vader main series, it's over. The main Star Wars series is over for now. This is, I feel like, kind of taking that role of a Darth Vader series. But what is the next iteration of that? So even if you have kind of mixed feelings on Kylo Ren or the kind of the story around there, I think this is phenomenal
Yeah.
to really get you in the headspace and slow down that storyline so you really understand the decisions he made and all of that. I loved it. I thought it was super cool. It's like my pick of the week. I just enjoyed it so much, and I'm so excited that it's not just a mini series. This is an
Yeah,
ongoing
ongoing.
series. And what other things are we going to uncover in this, or big secrets? Charles Soule is always full of stuff like that
Now,
I love.
what's the book that I got this confused with? It's the adaptation of.
They're doing an adaptation of Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, that's what I thought this was at first. Yeah,
which is going to have some extra scenes that weren't in the movie and everything.
Right, right.
So this technically will lead up to that, but this is going to go for a while because I think there's roughly a year or so in between the movies.
Okay. That was my next question. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I don't remember for sure, but I think it's something like 6 months to a year, enough time for Rey to do some more training and Kylo to fully take over this role as Supreme Leader. But yeah, this is awesome if you like a lot of like dark side stuff and what makes Sith tick and what their plans are and all that. This is awesome.
I love dark side stuff like the New Gods and Orion and those guys. Yeah,
all the stuff going on in DC.
Right, those are great.
This roughly ties in with
that.
Oh,
interesting. Wow, crossover.
But yeah, super cool. You will not be disappointed in this one. There is our A cover. We also have this really nice Gist cover with Vader's castle. This is a really cool one. So this character does not appear in this book, but they call this like a sneak peek variant. There's the new Star Wars like Jedi Knights book coming out. I can't remember the exact title. Jedi Knights. This is going to be the big villain in that, which this I guess is the first time this character has appeared, and he is based off of the old Kenner Star Wars figures when they were going to continue the toy line without a movie to base it on. So this is Aetha Prime, and he's going to be the big villain of that.
So like this first appearance in comics, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it first appearance anywhere, really?
Yeah.
I mean, because they were going to make a toy, but they didn't.
Right.
And that's a character that doesn't exist anywhere else because they made him up for the toy.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the first appearance.
Yeah, for this cover, and then I'm guessing it maybe issue 1 of the Jedi Knights series will have like interior first,
right?
Official appearance.
Yeah, because it's just the cover. You said
it's just the cover here. But very cool in there. We also have this Darbo variant for this is the Black History Month variant with Mother Anastasia. We also have this Wu variant. It's really cool. And lastly, we have a 1 in 25 Jiang cover we're selling for $19.99.
That's pretty.
I'm not gonna sneeze.
Fooled you.
Gotcha.
All right. So next up, I have Power Man Timeless #1. This is written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. The art is by Bernard Chang, and this is set after the Timeless book from 2023, which is where we first got introduced to this really overpowered version of Luke Cage. He fought Danny Rand, who had become this like almost godlike version of Moon
Mhm.
Knight, and that was a whole thing. Um, but this is not like a typical timeless book. This doesn't tease any future stories.
Yeah.
This really is a story just about this version of Luke Cage that continues on from what we saw at the end of the previous timeless book from 20, and it's the one from 2023 because 2024 that was the time slide book,
Yeah,
right,
right.
with Cable and Bishop. Yes. So at the end of that timeless book that this character was in, though, he was sent to our present day, right? He because he was in the future, right? He got sent to our present day, and at the beginning of this, we see that he does arrive at an Earth, not necessarily
Yeah.
this. It's not 616
Yeah.
Earth because, and you can tell that because the Earth that he arrives on, Danny Rand has passed away, and obviously that hasn't happened on 616. So he's really kind of upset by this, and he also sees that this world already has a Luke Cage. Uh, a younger one because again it is our present day, so he flies off into space for reasons unknown. Maybe the narration does pontificate that maybe he's looking for a way to bring about an end to himself because he's so powerful. Can anything end this version of Power
Yeah,
Man?
because he has the powers of Hulk, Iron
Century.
Fist, and
Yeah.
Sentry are kind of the main ones,
Yeah.
and that's kind of made him this immortal
Right.
creature.
Yeah. So he's he's kind of soul searching, basically going off through space, and then he runs into this woman, this cosmically powered woman. I guess her name is Ever, and also this really like awesome warrior named Aeon the Knife. But he doesn't have a knife; he's got a giant sword.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah, so that's not a knife. That's not a knife. That's a sword. So Power Man and this Aeon the Knife character, they start fighting, and Power Man, I'll tell you, he does get his butt kicked,
Yeah.
and but afterwards he winds up in this place that it's a pretty impressive place because when you turn the page and it's revealed where he is, it's a full splash page.
Yeah.
And it will sound familiar. It's not a place that we've seen before, but it says you are in the da 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 da, and it's like, oh wow, that's really cool. But I will say that after it's revealed where he is, it's a little bit confusing. I didn't quite understand
It gets
what was going
very
on.
like cosmic level,
Yeah,
like
very high concept and lots of dialogue.
yeah.
Between he's having a conversation with another character in there. I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, it,
Um,
it may take another issue or so for
yeah,
all of that to, someone to him start asking the questions of like, what is the deal with that? And,
yeah.
what's actually going on
What's
here?
the deal with this thing?
Yeah, because it's very like high level. It reminds me of, it doesn't involve the Eternals, but it's like Eternals or
Yeah,
Celestials, like
right.
that tier of
Uh huh.
of character.
Yeah. So a little bit of confusion in the middle, but then we do see something that makes us think that, oh, Aeon the Knife is not finished with Power Man yet. And I imagine that the next issue they are going to go into another big cosmic level slugfest. And hopefully the second issue will clear up some of the confusion from the first issue. But if you really liked, I really liked this version of Power Man though.
Yeah.
When we saw him in Timeless, I was thinking, man, I'd like another story with him. Well, this is it right here. So if you liked that, I would recommend checking this out. Like I said, a little bit of confusion in the middle, but there is still some good action. And hopefully the second issue will clear some things up.
Yep.
So we have our A cover right here. And there's a couple of cool variants from Ken Lashley right here. Looking all swollen buff. With that, I love him with the Iron Fist. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Oh, and well, I won't say. And this is a Galman cover right here. Looks really cool with classic and overpowered Power Man. And then we have this 1 in 25. I do not have the artist on this one. But this is the 1 in 25 variant that we're selling for $24.99. And that is the not super overpowered version. I mean, Luke Cage is powerful enough, but
Not like the
not like the cosmic one yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna be, I would be interested to see this version of Luke Cage like be in the 616 universe
Yeah.
as a cosmic level or a wielder of the Infinity Gauntlet or
Yeah.
something. I feel like he's
Oh,
like
yeah.
that kind
Put
of
him up
character.
against Thanos?
Yeah,
That'd be
I think
cool.
that's
Yeah.
it's a really cool progression of a character
Yeah.
without replacing the classic version of
Right.
the character. And let's just keep on with the Luke Cage train
Yeah.
because we've got Ultimates number 9. So this is still Denise Camp, but it's guest art with Chris Allen on art on this, which is really nice. And I'm going to try not to spoil too much of this, but it is a pretty self-contained
Mhm.
issue, and it is the first appearance of this Ultimate Universe's version of Luke Cage, as well as a couple other characters. I'm not going to say, but you'll have to read it to find out. But it does start back in February of 2005 in the Ultimate Universe, and young Luke Cage, which I'm guessing he's like what, like 15, 16, something like that.
Yeah.
He's pretty young. Gets put in jail in prison for reasons he doesn't know, and even his lawyer's like, I don't really know, but we can get you out in a year, whatever this is.
Mhm.
And maybe we can fix all of this. But 20 years later, Luke Cage is still in this prison system, and it's been really rough, and he's really had to become the Luke Cage we know, but without the powers, because he doesn't have the traditional origin story that he did. So he has to work out, and it does appear he gets moved from kind of prison to prison.
Mhm.
I guess they don't want to keep him in one place too long.
Well, I thought that too, but when I went back and looked, he started at one prison
Yeah.
and then wound up in another prison where he stayed. So it only looked like maybe he moved once.
Yeah, I thought at one point he mentioned like I've been through a couple of these
Oh,
things,
okay,
but
yeah.
I think
The book only takes place in two
yeah,
different prisons. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it looks like the one he ends up in is even maybe run by AIM, or
It said the Midas Corporation,
right,
which
which
connects back to Ultimates #2
yeah,
when they fought Midas.
yeah,
So
but there are some AIM agents.
or they at least they look
They
like them
look
with
like
the
it, yeah.
beekeeper helmets. Yeah,
Yeah, they may
yeah,
be some Ultimate Universe
right.
version of that.
Yeah,
But uh really he's just trying to survive. He does meet some people while he's in the prison that he kind of makes friends with. And what I love, and what a lot of these Ultimate books have shown, is the characters, even without their power, they're still the heroes.
right.
Like he still knows this is corrupt, and he still is going to try and get out of it. But of course, one day in January 2024,
Mm.
he receives a mystical looking package and a message from Tony Stark, uh, basically telling him the same things that Spider
Yeah.
Man was told, of like, you were meant for something else. And you can imagine what happens from there. I don't want to give it away, but that really, ramps this Luke Cage up from being, you know, surviving to thriving. And what he does next is really cool, where he really takes matters into his own hands.
Yeah.
It's not a stretch to think of, he does end up with his powers, but what he does with them, and kind of what his place in this Ultimate Universe is going to be very interesting to see, because like I said, this is kind of a one and done. But remember, so was the She-Hulk issue,
Yeah.
where she
Right.
decided, not to join up with the Ultimates or anything,
Yeah.
but eventually did. I have a feeling that we're going to get a little bit of that with Luke Cage, where you haven't seen him for the last time.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say that it's not so straightforward as I use the orb, I got my powers, I punch through a wall and break out of prison. It's not that simple. There's
Right.
there's more to it than that, which is
There's
pretty
more to
interesting.
it, and he's been in this system basically all his life,
Yeah.
and he's gonna do something about it.
Hmm.
Uh, Also, there's some great kind of homages to classic Power Man stuff.
Yeah.
It's all really really cool. He doesn't necessarily look like this on the cover.
Yeah, and one of the variants too, he looks more like that and less like what he actually does in the
Yeah, he's
book.
got like
So
longer hair
yeah.
and stuff. So maybe that's a look he'll adopt later on. But don't want to miss this one. First appearance of Ultimate Luke Cage, and Luke Cage adjacent.
Yeah. There is another well-known character that shows up in here. Doesn't have a big part,
Yeah.
but maybe we'll see that character again later. Don't
Some of
know.
my favorite parts of the Ultimate books is, looking to the side and being like, oh, that looks familiar.
Yeah.
Or, the
Yeah.
same stuff with like the AIM agents and everything. It's
Hmm.
like, whoa, how do they fit into this? So, very cool issue of Ultimates. And yeah, I love Ultimate Spider-Man, but I feel like this one, issue by issue, has some of the biggest swings and
Yeah.
excitement. And
This is the
everything.
book that's building the world.
Right.
The Ultimate Universe, yeah.
So very cool in there. We've also got this Inyuk Lee variant, which yeah, he does not
Yeah.
look like that here.
Uh-uh.
And we have a 1 in 25 turn Clark variant. We are selling for $12.99. Very cool in there too.
All right. Well, jumping back over to DC, we have Justice League: The Atom Project #2, continuing this really cool story. This book is split into two halves, and it goes back and forth between present day, where the Atoms, Ray Palmer and Ryan Choi, are trying to still track down Captain Atom because he. And we were wondering, we weren't quite sure about this in the first issue, but it does seem like Captain Atom is somehow acquiring various powers because they do make
Yeah.
mention that he has multiple powers in him.
Well, they mentioned he has the Speed Force.
Yeah, and
which is
we were curious about that in the
yeah,
first issue.
and we don't necessarily know where he got it from. Or
Well, is it Barry Allen's? Because Barry Allen, after Absolute Power, didn't have
Yeah.
his powers anymore.
yeah, it's all it's a little vague of what's
Yeah.
happening, but I feel like with a character like Captain Atom, it's like I don't know, he could almost do anything.
Right.
So he could be manifesting these, or
Yeah.
he could be taking a little bits of them and blowing them up.
Yeah, so I don't know if he wound up with all these weird powers at the end of Absolute Power or if he's somehow acquiring them in
Yeah.
some way. I don't know. But they do make mention that he has multiple powers somehow. And I think that I got the impression that he was collecting them, but I might be wrong about that. We might find out more later. But I got the impression that he was collecting them. And I think it's for the purpose of destroying them, but I don't really know why because he does go to somebody that he thinks maybe can help him destroy them. But I don't know why. So more to come on that front. The other part of this book, like I said, it goes back and forth. The other part is set about 3 or 4 weeks in the past before Captain Atom ever got his powers back in the first place. And the Atoms and Nathaniel Atom together, they do find out where his powers went. You know,
Yeah,
because
kind
if
of
he
the first initial.
yeah, because if he
thing.
doesn't have them, they must have gone somewhere else, right? And they do find where his powers are. It's in a very unexpected
One that
place.
I didn't know was an option.
Right.
But
But they do explain in this book that actually, yeah, that is an option. That is a thing that can
yeah, I
happen.
want to know where that thing's powers went.
Right. Yeah, right. So so that was a cool sequence about how because we do see how he got his original powers back in the first
Right.
place from you know they found his rogue powers, they got him back, and we see him as Captain Atom for the first time since Absolute Power. So we see all that.
And a big thing too is he seems okay when he gets his powers back.
Yeah.
And then you do the time jump, and he is kind of
Yeah.
off the
Because
rails.
he's like, hey, I feel better now. I've got my powers back.
Yeah.
This is great. You
Something
know,
happens.
something
in between
happened.
Those.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I will say that the solicitations for issues 3 and 4, I went ahead and read those, and it does mention that Inferno is monitoring everything that's happening with the Atom Project, which I think is pretty interesting. It helps tie this book a little bit more closely to Justice League Unlimited because we know Inferno is a big deal over there right now. So I think that's pretty cool because we're about to get the reveal of who is leading Inferno in the next issue of Justice League. So nice connective tissue there. But yeah, so just more about Captain Atom for some reason doing whatever it is he's doing. I don't know why, and the Atom's trying to track him down. And there's two voices narrating, almost like they're watching all this on TV or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know who they are. Maybe it's a couple members of Inferno. Maybe I don't know. But yeah, so still a cool series. Lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
So hopefully in the next issue and the next issue after that, we'll start to answer those. But yeah, don't miss out the second issue. This is our A cover right here. We have this nice Larix variant. I like those classic suits. Classic, yeah. We have this really cool Kevin Wada variant.
With those new suits, which we still haven't seen Captain Atom in that, whatever his new getup is.
Yeah, whatever that suit is. I don't know. Yeah. And then there is the 1 in 25 Carmine di Giandomenico cover that we are selling for $19.99 with your two Atoms. Still really like this new suit for Ray Palmer. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I like it.
They even do address Atom Smasher in here.
Which didn't line up with Justice League Unlimited.
Right. I didn't fully understand that.
That was weird, yeah.
That's the only thing that I don't quite get is in some of the books, it seems like their abilities to give people their powers back and switch them around,
Super easy,
flawless.
yeah.
Just takes 2 seconds. Here, it feels like it's a very like uh
Like almost like they're still trying to figure it out how to do it.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but I think by the end of this, we'll know where this kind of fits
Yeah.
in with the whole thing.
Hmm.
Next up, I have Wolverine #6. This was a really fun issue as this adamantine idea has been growing throughout the series. This other gold metal that's like adamantium, but seems to kind of maybe have a life of its own. It's gold. It looks like it comes from the earth
Hmm.
and has infected Lady Deathstrike and Lasher. Is that his name?
Constrictor
Constrictor
and
and
Cyber.
Cyber.
Yeah.
Uh, and so Wolverine has been coming up against each of those every time. But in the last issue, he seemed to almost be getting spoken to. He said from his bones.
Hmm.
So this adamantine and the adamantium are somehow kind of related, and it spoke to him through that. And but that it turns out that was he was not the only one that happened to, because there are multiple people in the Marvel universe that have adamantium, and he finds Laura Kinney, who is tracking Wendigo. But of course, Wolverine has been kind of protecting this Wendigo because it is like a kid who's turned into the Wendigo, and has been trying to keep his humanity. So keeping him talking and saying his name and communicating. So he tries to stop Laura Kinney, but then they kind of talk about she has felt this too, this voice, and they're going to go investigate that, which is really fun. Nightcrawler's still in this, and I love all the stuff with Nightcrawler. But this does pit Wolverine and Laura Kinney Wolverine against some of the adamantine people we've seen before, and there's a lot of action in this, which is great to see them work together.
Yeah.
They have their own kind of style when they work together. And there is a big reveal at the end of this about maybe someone behind a lot of the goings on. I don't know how it's all connected, or because it sounds like this adamantine has been there forever.
Right.
It's just now kind of waking up, but we'll have to see. I thought it was a really fun issue. Probably one of the most action-packed issues of the series so far, and I think Laura Kinney and Logan should be like in the book together forever, because I think they're really
Yeah.
fun together.
I just want a scene where Logan gets his he finally gets his decoder and he decodes the message and it says drink your adamantine.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
That would have been good in December.
I know, but we only just got it now and I thought about that today when I read it. I was like, "Oh, that's,
Be sure to use your adamantine.
right."
Crummy ad.
Right.
So there is your A cover. Nightcrawler is not part of the fight.
Right.
He's
He's in it a little bit,
He's
yeah.
on babysitting duty.
Yeah.
But still, great cast of characters. We also have this Mark Brooks animated inspired variant. And we have this Shaw variant.
All right, well, next I have the second issue of EC's Cruel Kingdom. And just like Epitaphs from the Abyss and Cruel Universe, this is a anthology book with 3 short one and done stories. But each one of these have a fantasy flavor to them instead of horror or sci-fi. Although these all could fit in the Epitaphs from the Abyss book as well, because they're all creepy. So we have one called A Rare Immunity, written by Chris Condon, and PJ Holden is the artist. And there is a knight named Parzival who obtains this sword that makes him immune from all pain and attacks and things like that. But it may prove to be more of a curse than a blessing. There is another one called Hammer of Witches that I really liked. This one's from Steve Niles and Andrea Muti. And it's about a woman who is saved from being burned at the stake for allegedly being a witch. But her story doesn't end there. There's more that happens after she is saved that's pretty cool. And there's another one called Seat of Power from Cameron Chittock and David Lapham. And there are 2 princes that are vying for the throne after their father, the king, passes away. and one brother will do whatever it takes to sit on the throne, but he may end up coming to regret it. So, can't say much more than that because these stories are just short stories. Not a whole lot to say about each one of them. But it's just I love these types of books. I love Epitaphs from the Abyss, Cruel Universe, and now this. Just great books. Just gives you can read these any order. None of these stories connect to anything. They're just like these short little one and done stories, and it's really cool seeing a fantasy version of that, but still creepy. Like I said, these are just as creepy as anything you'll find in Epitaphs from the Abyss, but they're awesome. So we have our A cover right here. We have this Fowler cover, and then we have this 1 in 10 J variant that we're selling for $9.99. That's your
That yeah,
the
that
shoot. I just had it in my head.
dwellings.
Dwellings. Yeah, I believe that's yeah. So that's so cool. I wish I'd like to see a story with him
Oh,
doing one.
it'd
Yeah,
be messed up.
yeah.
Next up, I've got a Rocketfellers issue number 3, and this continues to be a super fun book.
Yeah.
I love this family. I love the kind of Fantastic Four feel of it. But you've got your family. They are on the run, and they're now hiding out in the year 2025, which is pretty ancient to them. They're
Hmm.
still learning about the technology and the limitations there. But this one, it kind of does more of just showing you how they're adapting, but maybe, sprinkling some pieces that we'll be seeing going forward. So we see the mom, Rachel, where she uh, maybe is missing where she's from a little bit more than the others. She goes and swims because it kind of feels like floating in space,
Oh yeah.
which is really nice.
Oh, that one panel makes sense.
Yeah,
This sort of split panel. I didn't understand that at first, but now I get it.
yeah,
Okay.
you see where she's now got a job
Hmm.
flying a helicopter for like an air traffic reporter
Hmm.
who's kind of a jerk. But that's really fun.
The way she deals with that is really fun too.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think the mother. I don't remember her. Rachel.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rachel.
I think she's my favorite
Yeah.
character. She's great. Yeah.
We also have the son who, the mom does remind me a little bit of like Sue Storm,
Yep.
and then the son reminds me of like Franklin Richards
Yep.
because he's doing something in his room with a 3D printer, and it looks like
Hmm.
he's building something, and we know he's a little bit less, hides the fact that they're from the future not as well as everyone
Right.
else, and he's messing with something. The daughter seems to be dealing with the death of the grandmother a little bit worse than everyone
Hmm.
else. You'll
She
have
does
to,
seem like she has some. She's like has some repressed, like that damaged her in some way, but
yeah,
she's not really letting it out there.
yeah, that's a really like heartbreaking
Yeah.
scene. The grandfather is getting hit on by all the women on their street as he's working out, which is great. But the big story comes from the dad, Roland, who, if you remember, was it last issue that we saw the eye, or is it the first issue?
I think it's all the issues. Well, I think it was the end of the first issue. Yeah.
So Roland in his lab under the house has it looks like an eyeball, but it has like a lid over it
Yeah.
and stuff.
Like an eyeball encased in skin, and
Yeah,
it's like a eyelid. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and from what I remember and what they kind of alluded to is this might have something to do why they're on the run
Mm.
from the future. And he has been studying this very Reed Richards like, um, but has noticed that it has been almost like healing itself or rejuvenating a little bit more, and this has him kind of concerned that there's more to this when he realizes.
I keep wondering, like, is it going to grow a person
That's what
around
I
the
was
eyeball?
wondering. It feels like it's kind of
Maybe.
doing that.
I don't know.
But we also see the villains, the people who are hunting the family in this, and learn not really learn more about them, but we see more about them. And uh, I what I initially thought is this kind of like bounty hunter character. I'm now starting to question who they are. This
Hmm.
character that's on the cover, and we meet someone else that they're talking to, and it kind of throws a twist on the story that maybe we don't know 100% about the events that led up to this
Yeah.
story. So once again, a really interesting issue. It's a lot of fun.
Did you mention the dog?
No, the dog is great in this.
The dog is the cook of the family. It's
Everyone
great.
loves the dog's
Yeah. Oh
recipes,
man.
but the dog just has like these robotic arms on its back
Yeah.
that does
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, the dog's a great
It's
character.
so much fun.
So yeah, this is great, full of adventure, and even though it's kind of touted as an all ages book, I feel like it's all ages in the way that like a Fantastic Four book is all ages. There's still stakes, there's
Yeah.
still danger,
Yep.
and mystery that have me intrigued. So it's just a really great issue of Rocketfellers. Is your main cover. We also have this Burnham variant. Them and their, I believe that's like their thing they traveled in time
Yeah.
in. And we have a Mike McCone variant.
Yeah, this is just, every issue I just enjoy spending time with his family.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, and it's a little bit action packed, but just the hijinks they get up to. But it's not super slapsticky, but it's just fun, and yeah, it's
Francis
just
Manipul's art is
oh
fantastic
yeah,
in this.
yeah. His art on top of this fun story just elevates it
Yeah.
even further. Like it's such a great book. All right, so next up, I've got Batgirl #4, and this is the first appearance of two new villains who are with the Unburied, who is that ninja clan that's after Batgirl and Lady Shiva. One's name is Chodak the Unbowed, and the other one is Nergui, Nergu with an umlaut, Nergui, Nergui the Unknown. And at the end of last issue, Batgirl learned that her mother, Lady Shiva, is in league with the likes of Nissa Al Ghul and Angel Breaker and a couple others as well. And she's not happy about it because hey, those are bad guys, right?
Mhm.
And Lady Shiva does try to convince Batgirl that they all need to put their differences aside and work together because that's the only way they're going to be able to take down the Unburied. The Unburied is after all of them, and they're going to have to pool their resources and their skills together to try to defeat that group. And they're on this train. But it's not long before that train is once again attacked by the Unburied, who is still chasing after him, and that's where we meet. That's where we meet Chodak and Nergui, Nergui, I guess. And then from there, the rest of this issue is just more great action. Like the whole series,
Every issue's had
every
great,
issue,
great action scenes.
for sure, yeah. And the story still remains simple, but in a good way. It's not too overly complicated. There's not all this weird mystical stuff. It's just this weird ninja clan versus Batgirl and her mom and some other not so great people, and they all fight each other. And there's more of that. There's a great sequence with Batgirl trying to take down everybody in the train before the Unburied shows up, and then when they do, there's a great sequence outside of the train where they're all fighting. It's got great artwork. Like it is just a fun series. If you want to read Cassandra Cain Batgirl, this is a great series to do it with because it's easy to jump on, and it's new villains, so we're all on the same boat as far as learning who's these villains are. It's just really cool. So wanted to show that one off, and this is the only cover I have.
Next up, I want to talk about Poison Ivy #30. So we have probably, I know we talked about this book way back when it started and just how like impressive it was that it was originally supposed to be a 6-issue miniseries. And then people requested and loved it so much it got extended to a 12-issue series and then got the go ahead to be an ongoing series. And now it's at issue 30, which is awesome. Like that's incredible. There's so many books since this one. There's so many books we are like, oh, I hope that gets the Poison Ivy treatment.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, taking a book from a miniseries and into an ongoing.
And then same thing happened with the Green Arrow, who is now on issue number 20. So that's really cool too. So I would love Batgirl. That needs to be the next one,
Yeah.
Or Challengers or The Question.
The Question, yeah.
All of those. Make all of those happen, yeah.
So this is really cool, and I haven't checked in with Poison Ivy in quite a while.
I want to say the last time we talked about it, I remember I read one. Was it for All In? I think it was around the All In. I think it was for All In. It was the one where she goes to the swamp and Killer Croc's there.
Yeah.
And there was
because we kind of went over all of the All In, like.
Yeah, I think that was it because I think I did like 3 issues worth.
Yeah.
And then we stopped, and then now this.
Yeah, so this is really cool. And since I had checked in, I was like, am I gonna even understand what's going on? But it's really
accessible.
Accessible.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention about what makes this one special. It is a flip book. So you see on that side you've got Poison Ivy, and if on the other side, and either could be the front. They both have the barcode. They both have the title and logo. Janet is on the other side. And, if you don't even know who Janet is, this does a good job of kind of explaining it. Right now, she's kind of a love interest of Killer Croc, which is really interesting.
I wasn't sure if they were making her a love interest of Poison Ivy, which I was confused by.
So that is also addressed in
Okay.
this.
Okay.
But Janet's kind of like her. Um, it's addressed in a negative sense, but like kind of her gopher or like
assistant,
yeah. All of that. But someone kind of eggs her on with some of those titles.
And for those folks watching who have been reading this since the get-go, they're screaming at us right now, but we haven't been keeping up with it, so we're a little bit
So
confused.
What's really cool about this is, of course, this two stories meet in the middle. I actually read Janet's side first.
That's like the all-in special.
Yep.
That's really cool.
And it's halfway through a page where it flips.
Nice.
It's not just one page or another. It's like last page is part of it's upside down.
Neat.
Is
it oversized, double-sized at all? No,
it's regular size.
Okay.
So one side, Janet is investigating this town that her and Killer Croc have been kind of hiding out in, and it's very weird, and it looks like everyone vanished from it one day. Like, she kind of determines they didn't leave slowly because there's a newspaper and it has like, a date on it, and she hasn't found any newspaper since then. So there's some weirdness going on, and then when she's kind of out walking in the woods, she runs into a very like scary, shadowy looking figure, very like looming, who kind of tasks her with something, and that's the person who kind of talks to her about Poison Ivy and says like she doesn't even really care about you. She like cares more about about Harley, and they left you at one point, and you keep running back to them and everything. This figure tasks her with something, and that's where her side ends. But you flip it over and you read the Poison Ivy part, and you realize Ivy is actually thinking about Janet and like kind of remorseful for how she's treated her. And she also runs into a even bigger character, a character that's like the size of a mountain.
Oh,
a very interesting character, and this does have to do with the green. And in Poison Ivy, you have the gray and some of that. And Poison Ivy gets tasked with a job that only she can do. That she is kind of a mediator between a couple of different entities. And how is that going to butt into what Janet also got tasked with? Because those two characters meet up right in the center, but now you both know that they have maybe some differing plans. It was just super cool, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what led up to this, but I read this, I'm like, oh, I want to read the next one because that was awesome. Yeah. And it deals with like characters, like Swamp Thing's not in there, but you could see, this is easily a Swamp Thing in it and all of that dealing with the green. I thought it was awesome. So even if you haven't been reading Poison Ivy, I just highly suggest you either pick up this issue or you go back a few issues and try it out, because it is a really phenomenal series. I understand why it like wins awards and everything. Yeah. So there's your A cover, which is a flip book with the two characters on it. But this also has some of the best variants. And it always has. Like, these have been phenomenal. So starting off, we have a Fornes. This is actually the Hush variant, so no Poison Ivy on here. But you've got Hush and then Batman standing on the bridge. Very cool. We also have... I actually ordered this one before I'd even read it, just because I love Villalobos' art, and I love this style of like playing card. But this is a Villalobos variant.
Isn't that a flip?
Which is also a flip. On the other side is the same cover, which is awesome. So, they're keeping that theme. But to keep going with the great covers, we have this amazing Jenny Frison cover, which is also flipped. I love that it's a true flip, because some flip books, you look at it, you're like, yeah, but that's actually the cover because it has the barcode on it or something like that. No, these are like exact replicas on both sides. And then we also have a foil version of the flip cover, except for this one doesn't flip. It's a wraparound, so it kind of all goes together in a very cool
That
way.
that almost looks like foil acetate.
Yeah,
It's not acetate, it's just foil, but
it's
it
foil,
almost
and it also kind of looks like it's like gold foil. Like it's got
yeah.
some color to
It's
the
a that's a
foil.
special foil for sure.
And then we also have a 1 in 25 Sarah Balsam variant. We're selling for $18.99. And then the big one, which is beautiful, is the 1 in 50 Jenny Frison Virgin variant of that cover that we're selling for $79.99.
Yeah, that's right. And I love that Poison Ivy, it's run for 30 issues and it's not slowing down. Like it
No.
shows no sign of slowing down. People still love it. They're still buying it. It's not like it's tapering off. Like it is going strong.
Yeah,
Like
we
that
have
is
new
the
people coming in all the time
yeah.
being like, I want to read Poison Ivy, or do you have the latest Poison Ivy trade or something
Yeah.
like that? I mean, it's awesome now. Harley Quinn kind of got that treatment where she broke off away from like the main Bat universe
Hmm.
and became her own thing. I feel like this is what that's doing this Poison Ivy, where
Yeah.
she is a standalone character that, yes, is kind of running parallel with Gotham and everything, but um, you can have her in it not just be a Batman book.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. It's like a perfect story of what should happen with all these
Yeah.
books, right? Yeah. All right, so next up, I've got Avengers number 23, and this is a continuation of last issue where the Avengers went to the Grandmaster's um, casino, his palace, whatever it was, to try to steal a data drive that contains a lot of information about the missing moment that Kang was trying to get at in way back. I mean, this has been going on for years.
2022.
2022, I think. Yeah. And so they tried to get this, but when they got there, this all happened last issue. They found that it had already been stolen by Kang and the Black Cat because she's the best thief around, right? So in this one, the Avengers are chasing after Kang and Black Cat because they're trying to get that drive. Um, but before any of this had started, Kang had arranged for the Excalibur villain known as Gatecrasher and her group, the TechNet, to run interference with the Avengers because he knew that the Avengers are going to be there while we're there. Actually, yeah. And he's like, we're going to need somebody to, run interference on them while we get away. So Gatecrasher and TechNet, who are not new characters, they've been around since the 80s. But they start fighting the Avengers, and that's a really cool fight sequence. And we do get a couple flashback scenes to when Kang first approached Black Cat about doing this. And she says, you could have gone to any thief in time, the past or the future, and yet you're here with me. And he's like, yeah, you're the best. And
Put that on your resume.
yeah, and we learned the reason why she agreed to do it in the first place, which is actually pretty cool. I like that a lot. And with the way this issue ends, I think the stakes are about to get raised. Like there's a big splash page at the end, and it's like, oh gosh, the Avengers are gonna have to go deal with that. So yeah, just another cool issue of Avengers. The last issue was really fun seeing the Avengers come up with the plan for how they're gonna break in with Scarlet Witch and Storm being like, okay, let's get in a fight, and then you say this, and then I'll say this, and then you see that
Yeah.
happen, and they're powering up and everything. So cool story. I mean, I like this, and there's more to come with the next issue. So there's our A cover right there. We have this really cool Mark Brooks deified is what he says, like Disneyfied kind of cover. What do they call the animated style? Yeah,
Animated
that's what the official name of these are. And then we have this.
Don't be confused.
Right, we have this Saiz cover, which is the Captain America: Brave New World variant in theaters next week. I can't wait to see it. We gotta go on Thursday night preview
Yep.
night.
I'll dress up as Red Hulk. I'll paint my body, take off my shirt,
No,
rip up my pants, and start punching walls.
I will take pictures.
Next up, I have JSA number 4. And I gotta say, I really like the first issue. This may be my favorite issue, but I just feel like um, we've got past the kind of introductory,
Yeah.
and a lot of the story is going on here. So this kind of spotlights on two characters. One is the new Doctor Midnight that you see on the cover, and she's really interesting. She kind of has the same thing as Doctor Midnight, where she's blind but can see like in the dark with her goggles and all of that. But if you read the previous issue, she got captured by the not Obsidian, It was like
The
the
imposter. Yeah.
imposter obsidian. It was a big kind of monstrous version, and now you see her and how she is going to try to get away and discovers some of what the Injustice Society's plans are, which seem pretty grandiose, which is really cool. But the other thing that's going on in here is if that obsidian that attacked her and has been kind of fake this entire time, where is the real obsidian?
Hmm.
Where is Todd? And that's the other story we get in here, which is really cool and very kind of trippy and Twilight Zone
Yeah.
ish that I really really liked. There's a new artist on this one, Vasquez, that I really really liked. It has a little bit more animated style, but fits with this book really well. There's a lot of good action and mystery and big page like villain scene and everything that I thought was really really fun. So this is your A cover for that. We also have this Ryan Benjamin Black History Month variant with Dr. Midnight, which I like that this cover like reflects like yeah this issue is mainly about her,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
works.
Mhm.
And then we also have this I believe this is the Sweeney Boo variant with Jakeem Thunder and Dr. Midnight.
Well, I've only got one more, and this is Batman number 157, and this is the final issue of Chip Zdarsky's run. It's the final part of the Dying City story arc. It's all coming to a head here because the next issue is the first part of Hush 2, right? So can't really say too much without spoiling everything. There is a really cool sequence in this where Batman chases Leonid, who has kind of been like the kind of like bad guy throughout this whole thing. He chases him onto a well, Leonid is getting away on a plane, and Batman, drives up in his Batmobile and grapples the plane, and things happen. The controls of the plane get damaged, and Batman has to safely land it. It's not quite as ridiculous in a good way, but ridiculous as when Batman fell from the moon and survived. But it has those same kind of vibes.
And he turns it from saving a plane into a super punch.
Right. Yeah.
Which is
Right.
like, wow, that's some
Yeah,
planning.
that was yeah. So, but it's ridiculous, but in a fun way. Like that's what you want out of comic books, right? Is like these crazy feats of daring do that you would never see in real life. So it's super duper fun there. It's also the final showdown between Batman and Commander Starr, whose real identity we learned at the end of last issue, and we do learn more about Bruce's alleged half brother, who has kind of been a subplot in this whole series about, or in this whole story arc about maybe suing Wayne Enterprises to get control of the company because he was owed that. That all gets resolved in this as well. And yeah, so I've been enjoying Chip Zdarsky's run on this. I'm sad to see him leave. Can't wait to see what he's going to do next. I would love if he came back to Daredevil. That'd be super cool. But yeah, and then the next issue is Hush 2, the very first part of that. So
which is a while because we haven't even talked about it on Comics from the Future or anything.
oh, you're right. I was. It comes out in March, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but I guess it's maybe later March. It's not been on FOC yet.
Right.
I hadn't even thought about that.
So
yeah.
there's going to be a little bit of a gap.
Yeah, there's
it
gonna
seems,
be-
between this and the next issue.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be like an even like 4 weeks
Yeah.
between this and the next one. It might be more like 6 weeks. Because we're at the beginning of February now. It may be more like 6 weeks where that comes out at the end of March. I haven't looked at the dates yet, but
And this doesn't don't think this like leads into
No.
Hush. This has a very definite end
Yeah.
to Zdarsky's run.
Yeah.
It's a very like final page,
Yeah.
close
this
the book.
this
the
has
end.
nothing to do with Hush 2 whatsoever. So if you've been waiting for Hush 2 and you're like, "Oh, I need to read that previous story arc." No, you don't. There is nothing about Hush anywhere
all
in
the
here.
stuff with Gordon
Yeah.
and his relationship
Mhm.
and all of that gets solved, and the relationship between Batman and Gordon gets addressed and
Yeah,
everything
right.
of them getting along and everything. So I thought it was a good issue.
Yeah.
But it definitely is like a wrap up.
Yep, it's done. Like this story arc, Zdarsky's done. Jorge Jimenez on art, he's done as well.
Can't wait to see where he goes next.
I know. Maybe they'll do something together.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because this also has Jorge Jimenez and Tony Daniel, I believe, both
On a
are-
few pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly Jimenez, but Tony Daniel does a little bit too. Yeah, so a great wrap up to this story arc. Don't miss it if you've been reading it. There's our A cover right there. There's a bunch of variants for this. This is a Tony Harris and Jeremy Clark right there. We have this is Tony Daniel. Yep, right there. Very cool. Classic Batman right there. Now, this is our Hush variant cover from Mitch Gerads. But again, this book has nothing to do with Hush, but it is the Hush variant for that. This really nice foil cover with Batman and Commander Star, which is reminiscent of, I believe, the first issue of Chip Zdarsky's
Yeah.
run. I believe it was Batman in the background with Robin
With
like this, I
Robin.
think. Yeah, so nice bookend cover there. And we got a couple of incentives. This is the 1 in 25 from, I didn't mention, that was from Jorge Jimenez.
Yep.
Did the art on that one. This is the 1 in 25 Jerome Opeña variant that we're selling for $12.99. Very cool. And the 1 in 50 Raphael Grassetti variant that we're selling for $29.99 with 2 Batmans on it.
Yeah, so it was we didn't go over as many books as we usually do.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit smaller of a week. There's still, of course, more that's coming out that we didn't go over. You can see all of that at infinityflux.net.
Yep.
But
Although I will say next week, we were looking at the list earlier for next week. Next week is huge. So
yeah,
we're going to be having
it's a stacked deck.
Yeah, so this is the calm before the storm because next week we will have a ton of big books to talk
Including
about.
One World Under Doom,
Yeah,
number 1.
uh-huh. I don't remember what all the Absolute Batman number 5.
Yeah.
There's some Aquaman number 2. There's some other number 1s, I think.
Yeah.
It's a huge week next week.
It's a huge week, so like, subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any of this awesomeness. But we appreciate you watching this. Once again, if you have any questions or concerns or whatever, leave them in the comments. Send us an email at info@infinityflux.net. And yeah, all the books are available now while supplies last at infinityflux.net.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate everything. Let us know in the comments what you're most excited to read. We love checking that out. And stay tuned. Wednesday, we have our live show. We'll be answering your questions and just hanging out like we're hanging out at a comic book store.
Yep.
A lot of fun every time we get into some good conversations.
Oh, yeah.
So until then.
Yep.
See ya.